साष्टांग नमस्कार कर रहे हैं।
भाई राम झारखंड से
आज नया भारत नए लक्ष्य तय कर रहा है, नए रास्ते गढ़ रहा है, नया जोश है, नया उमंग है, नया सफर है, नई सोच है, दिशा नई है, दृष्टि नई है, संकल्प नया है, विश्वास नया है।
Good evening and welcome to NDTV. I am Ankit Tyagi to this special broadcast. Today, in fact, 28th of May has been etched in history as the new parliament building. The building for the new parliament, which is now expected to function for the next 75 to 100 years, where legislative business, bills, laws would be made that will have a direct impact on the lives of 140 billion Indians. A parliament building for the future of India. And here's hoping that at least the way in the last 9 years we have seen the parliamentary functions, the legislative business suffer, that also changes with the new parliamentary building. It was almost after a century of the British era parliament being used. Prime Minister Narendra Modi today inaugurated the new parliament building. The inauguration, in fact, was with in two parts. First, the religious ceremonies, and then, of course, the Prime Minister and all the other MPs, those who were at least attending this inauguration, there taking a tour of the building and speaking on this issue. Let's start with what Prime Minister Narendra Modi said on the inauguration of the new Parliament building.
आज 28 मई 2023 का ये दिन ऐसा ही शुभ अवसर है। देश आजादी के 75 वर्ष होने पर अमृत महोत्सव मना रहा है। इस अमृत महोत्सव में भारत के लोगों ने अपने लोकतंत्र को संसद के इस नए भवन का उपहार दिया है। आज सुबह ही संसद भवन परिसर में सर्वपंथ प्रार्थना हुई है। मैं सभी देशवासियों को भारतीय लोकतंत्र के इस स्वर्णिम क्षण की बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं। महान चोल साम्राज्य में सेंगोल को कर्तव्य पथ का, सेवा पथ का, राष्ट्र पथ का प्रतीक माना जाता था। राजा जी और आदिनम के संतों के मार्गदर्शन में यही सेंगोल सत्ता के हस्तांतरण का प्रतीक बना था। तमिलनाडु से विशेष तौर पर आए हुए आदिनम के संत आज सुबह संसद भवन में हमें आशीर्वाद देने उपस्थित हुए थे। मैं उन्हें पुनः श्रद्धापूर्वक नमन करता हूं। उनके ही मार्गदर्शन में लोकसभा में ये पवित्र सेंगोल स्थापित हुआ है।
But remember, importantly today, the inauguration of the center of the world's largest democracy had almost no representation from the opposition. 21 opposition parties, including the Congress, Aam Aadmi Party, Samajwadi Party, NCP, and even the BRS, boycotted the inauguration, contending that the constitutional head of the country, the president, should have inaugurated the parliament. Was this a missed opportunity as far as the opposition is concerned, or should the government also, the prime minister, many have been saying possibly himself, could have tried to reach out to the opposition and made this as a celebration in the very true spirit of the Indian democracy? Joining me now on the broadcast, my colleague Megha, who has been there throughout the day, in fact, covering the parliament, the entire parliament function, the way it was inaugurated, and also joining us at this moment, Aparajita Sarangi, Lok Sabha MP and spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party. We do have Dr. V.K. Agnihotri, former Secretary General, Rajya Sabha. We also have Sushmita Dev, Rajya Sabha Member of Parliament from the TMC. Jasmine Shah, Aam Aadmi Party spokesperson, Aarti R. Jairat, senior journalist, also with us this evening. I welcome you all on the broadcast. I want to start by asking you, Aparajita ji, the parliament inauguration is done. The Prime Minister, I mean, for every Indian, it should be a matter of pride. This was something which was very much needed. Governments before this have also expressed their concern about a larger space, a new modern parliament for a new modern India to be constructed. Could things have been handled better as far as the BJP is concerned? This was an occasion to celebrate our democracy. Do you think the Prime Minister could have reached out to the opposition to bring them on board as well?
A very good evening. To every action of Prime Minister Modi, there would be an equal and opposite negative reaction from the opposition parties. And I can tell you with all conviction at my command that these people suffer from a disease called cynicism. Please recall the day in 2022 when Rajpath had been named as Kartavya Path, and the Pratima of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose had been installed on Kartavya Path. These people had cried hoarse then. When there was a surgical strike, they were not convinced and they wanted documentary evidence. I think every time a good work is done, they have problem because they are afraid of the soaring popularity of Prime Minister Modi. Now today is a day of celebration. I think it was a historic moment. See, there is a new building of parliament which has come up, and there are about 888 seats. Imagine the number of seats in the Lok Sabha and about 384 seats in the Rajya Sabha, and so very accommodative, so very spacious and magnificent looking. I think every Indian should be proud of this, and the endeavor of the government needs to be applauded by one and all. So I think at this juncture, to find fault is something which is not to be even registered, even acknowledged. And finding fault with
why
PM
should it be
Modi's
acknowledged?
each and
We are
every
talking
action
about
has
the
become
parliament.
the
The
hobby
very
of these
soul of the
people.
parliament is the democratic institution that this
Absolutely.
country and that this country celebrates. And in that democratic institution, whether it was the right way or not, the opposition does have a right to register their protest. Why shouldn't it be registered?
See, I tell you, invitation had been extended to one and all. What I am trying to say is they are in the habit of finding fault with whatever Prime Minister Modi and its government and his government does. Now, the parliament has come up in response to the need of the hour. We must not forget this. In 2026, the delimitation would take place and more number of seats would be required, much more space would be required. And during the time of Prime Minister Narasimha Rao, in fact, this particular thing, the need for a new parliament, a bigger parliament had been floated by none other than the then Speaker Shivraj Patil. So I think when this particular thing had been happening for quite some time, on 10th December 2020, Prime Minister Modi lays the foundation stone of this parliament, 64,500 square meters, and within a record 2.5 years, this beautiful building has been completed.
I think, ma'am, there is no denying the fact that the parliament building, a new parliament, was needed. I don't think that anybody is contesting that. But Sushmita Dev, is it a missed opportunity, a missed historic opportunity for the opposition, as Aprajita Sarangi is saying that you are only opposing it for the sake of opposing Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Whatever points of differences you had, you could have attended the inauguration in the true spirit of this constitution and of course the democratic values that we are celebrating today with the new parliament, and then of course registered your protest, ma'am.
You see, my colleague who just spoke a while ago is symptomatic of what is wrong with this government. You ask them questions on China, they can't tolerate it. You ask them questions on Adani, they cannot tolerate it. You ask them questions on price rise, they cannot tolerate it. If asking questions and bringing the government to accountability is something the BJP can't tolerate, that itself tells you what is the state of the democracy in this country. And I'm pained to say, I was shocked to see the way the women wrestlers were dragged on the ground and handled so badly. And what is the foundation of the democracy? It is government of the people, for the people, by the people. You see, the BJP spokesperson is a very honorable member of parliament. You cannot sound like an architect saying so many square feet and so many chairs are in the parliament and so much of cement and mud has been used in the parliament. Why don't you talk about in how many minutes you passed the budget? And who disrupted the parliament last session? Only because they do not want to debate the Adani scam. So parliament is not a building, which we've been repeatedly saying. Please look at our letter that has been signed by 19 parties and the 20th party, which is KCRG, who joined. It talks about the entire state of affairs in the country.
Okay,
so
just hold on
Prime
for a second, ma'am. My colleague Megha also has a question. Megha, go ahead.
Sushmita ji, this argument can go on and on. My question is just this much, just for one day when we were inaugurating a building, and this really is not about politics. Is this really about one party? All of you have your place inside the parliament. It's not only the Bharatiya Janata Party that takes their place inside the parliament. Each one of you have your own seat. So for that, this one day, could the politics have been just kept aside and all of you come together? Because this was being dedicated not to the party BJP, but to the entire country. You know, you'll have all the time in the world to keep attacking the ruling party on various issues of your choice.
No, one second,
today,
Megha.
could that have been done?
Listen, Megha, let me tell you something. It pains me to hear you ask me what you're asking. I am assuming that as a journalist, you watch parliamentary procedure carefully. I mean, don't you think what is going on in the parliament, the way debates are scuttled, the way the microphones go off, the way we are not allowed a single debate that we want to debate, should matter more to the nation than going and clapping our hands to open a building. I mean, there are larger issues here. I'm sorry. Today, the narrative is very much pro the government wherever we go and whenever I open the TV channels. But someday history will be written and it must be recorded why we did what we did.
Okay.
Why we did what we did.
Okay.
I think history will judge all of us soon enough.
Just hold on, ma'am. Let me also bring in our other guests at this moment, for their first comments. Jasmine, your party has been among the parties which has supported the boycott of the parliament. Like Sushmita Dev is saying, yes, there has been question raised in the parliamentary or the legislative work which has suffered or that has been questioned possibly in the last 9 years as far as the government is concerned. But today was not the day of legislative business. Today was a building being inaugurated. PDT Achari, one of the foremost experts as far as the parliamentary affairs and constitution is concerned, he said there has to be a clear distinction. The parliament building does come under the executive. So if the Prime Minister was inaugurating it, it was not unconstitutional or unlawful.
This is not about law, Ankit. I think this is about a mark of respect. And the reason why my party protested, let me make it clear, is, and this will be remembered in the history of this new parliament building, that this building was inaugurated by showing disrespect to the highest constitutional office of the land, which is the President of India. The Constitution of India says that the first citizen of India is the President. And the parliament, in that sense, belongs to not just the ruling party, it belongs to the entire, political spectrum. So it would have been appropriate for the president to inaugurate it. It would have been all the more appropriate because the president happens to be the first tribal president. And therefore, if you have not even invited the president to this inauguration, what are you trying to say? That just because she is a tribal woman, you will not invite her? And there is a very troubling sign here, Ankit, because during the laying of the foundation stone of this parliament, we all remember that Mr. Ramnath Kovind, who was the first Dalit president of this country, he wasn't invited. So this continuous disrespect, it's very good to say that put politics aside, but if you show disrespect to the tribals and the Dalits of this country, sorry, we are not going to be part of that history that you want to manufacture.
Sir, but the argument would be that
the
argument would then be that when the president's address was being read, why did the Aam Aadmi Party and other opposition parties do walkout? Isn't that the disrespect to the office of the president? But I'm just going to come back to you. I'll come back to you. Jasmine, give me a second. Mr. Agnihotri is waiting. Dr. V.K. Agnihotri is waiting. Dr. Agnihotri, as the former Secretary General of Rajya Sabha, sir, do you think that this entire conversation which is going around as far as the new parliament, the way it has been inaugurated, the question which has been raised as far as the Prime Minister is concerned, all those should possibly have been left for another day. Also, the fact remains, if the Vice President would have been invited, being the chairperson, the leader of the Rajya Sabha, the protocol would have demanded the Prime Minister to take a step back. The Vice President would have been leading the proceedings. That's the reason why he was not invited, possibly.
You see, I am neither a politician nor a journalist. So I would make comments only on the technical issues and try to change the narrative also a little bit by making some comments. Now, first on your issue about the Vice President of India. Vice President of India is by virtue of being Vice President, he is the chairman of the Rajya Sabha. But first and foremost, he is the Vice President. He can't be just invited to sit with other guests. He has to be like President, the chief guest or whatever. So that is the issue I want to clarify. Other things is, building has been inaugurated. Now the question is how it delivers. How the members of parliament who will sit there, how are they going to deliver? That is more important than all other issues in the future. First thing is how it is going to deliver. Number one, how accessible the parliament is to the common man. It is being said that everybody is rejoicing, but how accessible this building will be to the common man, that is another issue I would like to sort of highlight. Then one more issue. The building has a triangular shape. Now nobody has talked about this triangular shape. Triangulation in research methodology means looking at a problem from different perspective. And that is, I think, is the role of the parliament.
Okay.
And that is why, knowingly or unknowingly, a triangular shape has been given to this building.
Right.
I would like that my comments to be confined to these observations.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Quite useful what you've said. Aarti, if I may bring you in, the criticism of the opposition is that it all became about one man. It was a one-man show. That's the opposition's, a larger argument. When you see the proceedings today, as soon as the Prime Minister walked in, the BJP MP started, chanting Modi, Modi once again. Is it somewhere, possibly today, the BJP MPs or the party could have avoided that? It's playing into the same narrative that the opposition is talking about, that it is all about one man, the Prime Minister of the country.
Ankit, so firstly, I'd like to say that I think it was a missed opportunity for both the opposition as well as the government. The opposition to be present at, the place where they are going to be sitting for the next 50, 60 years, to debate issues that are of national importance, and the government not to reach out to the opposition and make it a much more inclusive inauguration. Because at the end of the day, opposition parties are as much a part of parliament as the ruling party. And I certainly do feel that the way the entire ceremony was conducted, firstly, the inclusion of religious leaders and performing religious functions. This, goes against the spirit, I think, of a secular democratic republic. Religion, at the end of the day, I don't think has a place in Parliament. Religion can be outside Parliament, but not in Parliament. Secondly, yes, I think the BJP MPs could have avoided these chants of Modi, 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 because, it is not just about Modi. It is also about the opposition. And they should have been present there. It would have been wonderful if everybody could have got together and, inaugurated the building, as a joint effort. And the third thing, which is really distressing, is what was going on outside Parliament on the streets.
Absolutely.
Where, all these demonstrators who were trying to march, particularly these women wrestlers who've been sitting at, on protest for more than a month now, the way they were manhandled by the police and stopped from going to Parliament. Now, I understand that they could not enter Parliament on a day like today, but I think the police could have handled it better. We need not have seen these ugly scenes. So, altogether, what happened today is definitely playing into this narrative that the opposition is trying to craft, of it all being about one man, of suppression of dissent, of suppression of democratic rights.
Yes.
And it is very, very unfortunate, actually. What
Megha, you have a question. Please go ahead.
No, I mean, the reason here, Ankit, is that, from both sides you keep having these arguments, right? A lot of people tell us, and we've been speaking to people cutting across these political parties also, and there are sane voices coming in. Like Ms. Jairat is making this point that it is a missed opportunity.
Yes.
I wanted to draw the former Secretary General in and ask him that, sir, and I'm only going by evidence, Ankit, here, and the evidence that exists from the past, when you have former prime ministers who have gone ahead and inaugurated either a section or a wing, etc., of this very parliament, the old parliament, right? They were prime ministers then. When today another prime minister is doing it, I do not quite understand where does the objection come from. And I want the former Secretary General to answer this question as to, what does history tell us and what exactly is the correct thing as per the rules.
Okay, let Dr. Dr. VK just respond to that, and then we'll take a quick response from Sushmita. Dr. Agnihotri, please go ahead.
There are no rules about this. If there were rules, the matter was taken to the judiciary, and judiciary dismissed the whole thing because there are no legal or other issues or constitutional matters involved in this. That is the position as far as rules are concerned. And as already mentioned, actually I was also in that debate, and I had mentioned that point that we have to distinguish between Parliament building and Parliament as such.
Precisely.
The Constitution mentions the Parliament, and therefore the Parliament is headed by the Speaker, the President, and Parliament building is open to be inaugurated by anyone.
But I think it's gone now beyond just only the inauguration. I mean, it has also become, as we say, very entrenched battle line. Sushmita, would you like to take on what Megha said? Megha asked the question, if it was all right then, how is it not all right now?
No, I want to say one thing, following from what Mr. Agnihotri said.
There's evidence, Sushmita, in the past.
Yeah, Megha, she's responding to that.
She's responding to that. Allow me, the year was 1980.
She's responding to that, Megha. She's responding to that. Hold on.
1987, Sushmita. And that video is there. So, that baffles anyone.
Go ahead, Sushmita.
Okay, what I was saying is, going by what Mr. Agnihotri is saying, that there is no rule. And there's a difference between a building and parliamentary procedure. And we all admit that the President of India actually is the head of the parliament. Okay, then it begs the question that why is the President not invited? Why is she not invited? And the question you are asking that why has it been done in the past? I have one point to make, that I think there is a huge difference between inaugurating a library and a parliament annexee. For instance, the parliament annexee has doctors sitting in it who treat MPs. It's not the same as the parliament.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Not the same
ladies.
as the
I'm sorry.
parliament.
I'll have to come in here. We are completely out of time on this. The fact remains that post this entire controversy, whatever has been said, this argument now has been going on for more over a week. It's a new parliament. It was required change. We needed a new building to house our MPs, as the Prime Minister's aspirations as well. But we are hoping that this new parliament does not come with the baggage of the old ways that we have seen, particularly in the last few years. The battle lines, these are not enemies talking about each other. This is the place where legislative business for important things that will impact our lives will be made. And we are hoping that there will be more debates, less disruption, and at least less acrimony between the Treasury and the ruling benches, between the Treasury and the opposition benches as we move into a new building. Thank you so much for tuning in. A quick break, coming back, much more on the other side. Welcome back. Now, the new Parliament building is also an architectural marvel showcasing the cultural diversity of India. Take a look.
The new Parliament is an endeavour to showcase the cultural diversity of India. The architectural marvel saw the coming together of the entire country with construction materials sourced from states across India. In the government's bid to reflect the spirit of Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat. The stunning red sandstone has been sourced from Rajasthan. The bamboo wood for flooring has been procured from Tripura. The carpets have been procured meanwhile from Mirzapur and the stone jali works from Rajasthan. The centerpiece for the Ashoka emblem has been sourced from Aurangabad and Jaipur. And the Ashoka Chakra was made in Madhya Pradesh's Indore. The Lakha red stone was sourced from Jaisalmer, while the white marble from Ambaji in Rajasthan. The stone carving work has been procured from Udaipur and the fly ash bricks from Haryana. Much of the furniture has been procured from Mumbai.
As Prime Minister Narendra Modi arrived for the inauguration of the new parliament early Sunday morning, he ditched his usual kurta and churidar for a traditional dhoti and kurta. Dressed in off-white dhoti kurta paired with a golden jacket, PM Modi sat for the Bhawan and an all-religion prayer meet at the new Sansad complex. Dhoti kurta is the traditional Indian attire worn at religious and special occasions. The Prime Minister, wearing it on the special day, sends out the message of a leader rooted in tradition. The Prime Minister was also seen doing a Sashtang Pranam at the ceremony. This is not the first time that the Prime Minister has been seen wearing dhoti kurta. Earlier at the foundation laying ceremony of Ram Mandir in Ayodhya, Prime Minister Modi was seen wearing a golden kurta and a white dhoti as he performed the religious rituals. Then at the Mahakal temple corridor opening, Prime Minister wore a traditional South Indian veshti with dhoti. He performed prayers at the Mahakal temple, clad in a white dhoti with different hues of gold and a traditional white veshti that was beautifully bordered with shades of orange and gold. Similarly, at the Kashi Vishwanath temple corridor opening, PM Modi wore a mustard-toned kurta with a loose-fitted lower and a long ivory scarf.
We are joined by author Ramesh Tripathi. Mr. Tripathi, I know you're running a real packed schedule in United Kingdom, so thank you so much for taking out time and joining us here on NDTV. I just want to begin by asking you, Mr. Tripathi, when Prime Minister today inaugurated this new building, he said this, that, you know, this very moment is going to be etched in the memories of all of us forever. You as a citizen of India, what were your thoughts when you were watching this inauguration?
Megha, the way I see it, you know, many of our structures in the national capital region are actually colonial structures. They reflect a colonial attitude. The Indian Parliament, I'm sure you're aware, was inspired by the Chausat Yogini temple from Madhya Pradesh. But much of the symbolism in there, remember it was built as a council for princes. So much of the symbolism in there are actually British. So for example, there's a reason why the Rajya Sabha upholstery is colored red and Lok Sabha is colored green, because the House of Lords in the UK Parliament is colored red and the House of Commons is colored green. So actually, without us even realizing it, many of the symbols in the Parliament are actually of the British Raj. Now, when we gained independence, we did update many of the symbols. So, for example, we adopted the Dharma Chakra, which is the ancient dharmic symbol, the Hindu, Buddhist, Jain symbol. We adopted Ashoka's lion pillar. But in many of our structures, they weren't updated, the actual physical structures. You could make a case that maybe we didn't have the money earlier. But now that we do, I think it's a good idea to build new structures which reflect India's civilizational ethos. There's also, of course, the equally important aspect that these new buildings will raise efficiency. As someone who's visited the Parliament, and you have visited, I'm sure, far greater number of times than I have. You could sense that building was bursting at the seams. The office space for the MPs wasn't good enough. The capacity simply wasn't good enough. The Indian Parliament wasn't earthquake resistant, for example, which is a shocking fact to discover. You know, Bhawan na kare if an earthquake had happened. So the new structure, of course, is better from an efficiency perspective as well.
So, Mr. Tripathi, having written the Meluha book, Shiva trilogy, from there to the series on Ram, you've written a lot about the cultural past of India. And so I ask you this question, what according to you is the significance of the Sengol? There's been so much of a controversy around it.
I'm not a historian. I'm actually a maths graduate. So I'm as left-brained and boring as they come. I'm a history enthusiast. I read a lot of history. I read 5-6 books per month. So of the stuff that I have read, there is a North Indian equivalent of the Sengol, and such a ceremony is there in every part of India. It's called Raj Danda. So Raj Danda is mentioned in the Shanti Parva of the Mahabharata, which, as I'm sure you're aware, is actually a governance discussion. Acharya Chanakya's Arthashastra mentions the Raj Danda. Thiruvalluvar's Thirukural mentions the Raj Danda, but in the name Sengol. It's the same concept that essentially it's like a scepter. It is believed that Lord Shiva himself would manifest in that scepter, the Raj Danda, and hence there's the Nandi, Lord Nandi bull on top, which is also many scholars say can also refer to the bull of Dharma, and the entire concept is that the state and the ruler must be guided by Dharma in how they run the state. Dharma is not religion. Dharma is often erroneously translated as religion. Dharma is actually above religion. Panth translates as religion. Dharma is the right way to be, the balanced way to be, the sustainable way to be, the duties that a state must follow. And that's what the Raj Danda is supposed to signify, the Sengol Raj Danda. And actually, if you read across India in the ancient Rajabhishekas or the coronation ceremonies, this was a part of the coronation ceremony. You find it described. I haven't heard the term Sengol. I have to be honest. I've studied in Tamil Nadu. I did my primary schooling out there, but I had heard the term Raj Danda. It's a delight to discover that Sengol is the same thing, and it's actually being, given pride of place in our parliament. It's wonderful.
Right. So, Mr. Tripathi, there is a section section in the political setup of our country, and that includes, of course, the Congress, which now has been saying that this government is lying, that they are lying about Sengol, and that there really isn't much in terms of historical evidence to suggest that this was really the symbol that was used at the time of independence to signify the transfer of power. What would you have to say on that?
Megha, I certainly wouldn't like to be drawn into any political controversy, but I can say that from what one has read of descriptions of coronations in ancient past, a scepter or a Rajdanda or a Sengol was given to kings and indeed queens. I'm sure you're aware that in ancient India we had queens who ruled in their own name, like Rani Pravati Gupta. So if you read the coronations, that ceremony was actually described. Whether the Honorable First Prime Minister of India, the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Nehru, whether he went through the ceremony, there are articles that are there at Time or New York Times. But I guess it's best if scholars of that era explore and make a judgment call on that. But what I would advise is, more than the political controversy, to me, this seems like a civilizational moment. It's in a way, I'm sitting in Wales right now. I'm in Cardiff. I'm here on a book tour. My own book is being launched in the UK. And the Welsh language for many centuries, Megha, was actually oppressed by English. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the recent coronation of, that happened with King Charles, for the first time in 1,000 years, the Welsh language was also used. So in a way, it was a revival of an ancient spirit. And you can see the pride in the eyes of the Welsh when they speak of this. And I see a similar, thought with the Sengol being revived. And if you notice, Megha, you can say that it's a Tamil word, that the Sengol itself was made and consecrated by Adinams from a Tamil mutt, but you don't find the common people in North India, West India, East India saying this is not our symbol. In fact, everyone is saying this is our symbol, and to me, that is a civilizational moment of unity that I would like to focus on. Political battles will keep happening, but I think this is a much bigger issue to look at. I genuinely believe it's a civilizational moment.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on this issue. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Tripathi.